I started noticing the Jew thing around the 2016 with Trump's popularity, and the alt-right came into people became aware of the so-called alt-right, which was kind of short-lived actually, because they got smeared after Charlottesville. But I noticed that a lot of the Jewish people, even the conservatives, Ben Shapiro, Dennis Prager, at first they really hated Trump. So it was like all of them, whether they were liberals or conservatives, they did not want Trump. Trump was speaking plainly from the heart, like a simple man. He was not intellectual. He was just speaking the truth, the big picture truth as he saw it. And I was like, oh, I thought Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager were like pro-Christian and for like the country. And Dennis Prager kind of came around, and Ben Shapiro maybe less so. But I started to notice, I wasn't even aware of all this Jewish stuff until around that time. So I don't know.
I guess I would say that I don't think Trump was originally really a conservative. I
Right.
think when he started off, I think he was very secular. I mean, he had a history of just not being thought of as a Christian evangelical.
Right.
He was insulting John McCain. He was insulting George Bush.
I like
he was
that.
insulting all of these people. And I think, if you're Ben Shapiro or Dennis Prager, I think they see that as very threatening because they're very tied in with the Bush dynasty and with neoconservatism. And Trump was pushing back on that. And obviously, then Trump made a bunch of deals. He's good at making deals, and now they claim to like him. Just like Tucker Carlson claims to like him, even though we have that tape of him saying he hates Trump. So, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background. But my basic point is just to say, obviously, there are a lot of Jews, American Jews, who are very interested in the state of Israel. I didn't hear the name Israel once, I didn't know what the country of Israel was growing up. It wasn't part of my life. It wasn't part of my identity. And for an increasing number of American Jews, they're fairly apathetic toward it. They don't necessarily hate Israel, although some percentage of them actually are anti-Zionist. But George Soros as an individual has been pretty consistent in terms of his funding, his political activism. He doesn't like this ultra-Zionist, nationalistic persecution of Palestinians. And so he has funded opposition groups in Israel against that. So Netanyahu doesn't like him. And I'm just explaining. That's why, by the way, George Soros is such a popular figure to hate on in mainstream conservatism is because of Benjamin Netanyahu as a personal vendetta. And he basically has given the green light for that form of anti-Semitism. You can be anti-Semitic, when Benjamin Netanyahu agrees with it, basically.
It's interesting that, you're right. Trump wasn't particularly thought of as Christian or conservative. He was a New York liberal and got along with everybody and was very pro-choice at one point. And then he said after he had that grandchild, he became pro-life, but for the exceptions. And the draw for me of him was that he stood on the so-called controversial things that he said and didn't back down from telling the truth. Like he finally didn't apologize. And I was so sick of seeing all these so-called Christian politicians like Rick Santorum say, I want black people to work. I don't want them to be on welfare. And that was considered racist. And he was well-meaning, but he denied saying that. He's like, I didn't say that. And so all these people were apologizing, and finally Trump stood on what he was saying, and he was just a real guy. He was like a man among boys, even making Ted Cruz look like a rhino, which he is. So it was refreshing.
I think Trump was a rhino, but in the positive sense. He was like, I'm running as a Republican, but I hate this party. I hate everybody who's in it. I want to turn it upside down. If you don't vote for me, I'm going to run third party and destroy you people. And then the Democrats are going to win. So it's like it was like the nuclear option. And so the way he came in, I mean, I think everyone can respect his attitude, his fortitude, his persistence, the fact that he was going to run for president in 2000. So he had been planning this for at least 16 years, if not longer. I mean, just a smart guy
Yeah.
with a really tough personality. It's hard not to respect his leadership skills. He was popular in television, so successful in a lot of things. You can say, well, he was bankrupt many times, but he's still rich. I mean, what does it matter? You
Right.
could be bankrupt a million times, but if you come out at the other end a billionaire, I mean, you're ultimately successful. It doesn't matter how many times you fall down if you get up at the end. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of personally admirable qualities in the fact that he went in and he said, well, I'm obviously not a Democrat, but I'm also not I'm actually not really a Republican. I'm running on issues that are really popular, like most Americans want to restrict immigration. Most Americans like the idea of being tough on crime. Most Americans want to bring back jobs from China. We don't want to ship all the jobs overseas. So he just was like, I'm going to have this populist platform, which was his plan, again, 16 years ago when he was running for the Reform Party. He's always had that idea. He implemented it. He executed. He managed to win. And then once he was in, basically, he found himself surrounded by conservatives who kind of, eventually wore him down and pushed him into that camp. And now he's pretty solidly in there and it's hard to get out. And once you're in there, you're sort of stuck. And I think that's part of the reason he lost in 2020. I think, does YouTube allow discussion of election denialism now? That's greenlit apparently. But,
it might be a bait and switch. I disavow all questioning of the 2020 election for the sake of my channel.
Yeah, I was just checking. I disavow as well. I was just checking if we get in that territory.
That's
we
funny.
Can talk about other things.